Thomas Massey, Joe Rogan, J.D. Vance, Edward Snowden. At least a few people are still out there fighting for the rights of Americans and victims of horrific tragedies. Here we have this little animation.
Please help us, Thomas Massey. You are our only hope.
Is it true? Let's watch this video next.
The first bill's been very successful. We got 3 million documents released. But there have been some dragging of feet.
Mm-hmm. This is about, as it says there, the Epstein File Transparency Act, Part 2.
By the Attorney General and the Acting Attorney General. And so, this is to spur the next level. Specifically, the main thing that this new bill does that we've introduced is forces the U.S. Attorney General to cooperate with state attorneys general that want to prosecute Epstein co-conspirators under state law. And it turns out in New Mexico, that's where the Zorro Ranch was. You hear a lot about Epstein Island. You hear almost nothing about Zorro Ranch. But it was expansive. It was massive. People were going there all the time. Crimes were committed there. And some of those aren't barred by statute of limitations. And so the Attorney General in New Mexico would like to prosecute those crimes. And so we're making it easier with this bill. That's one of the things it does.
That's great. More prosecutions. People are tired of watching politicians and prosecutors twiddle their thumbs and not get anything done. So here's one more.
I wasn't part of the original prosecution team, neither was Attorney General Bondi, and I can tell you this, there's only one president that's held Mr. Epstein accountable, and that's Donald J. Trump. During his first administration, that was the administration that prosecuted him, and during this administration, it's the administration that's been totally transparent and released all the files. And no matter how much criticism people want to make about the Epstein files, that is indisputable. It's undisputable that nobody talked about the Epstein files for 4 years during Biden, 4 years. And so when President Trump said, let's release the Epstein files, and the law was passed that allowed us to legally do it, we did it.
Well, hopefully more laws will be passed and people won't twiddle their thumbs any longer, and we'll discover more. Here's another bit about Massey on Morning Joe's. It says right there, discuss current events in our new legislation, the Epstein Files Transparency Act number 2. Survivors are still waiting for justice. Our bill allows state AGs to do the job that the federal DOJ refuses to do.
Can I get your word under oath that within the next 30 days, you will personally sit down with these 10 victims and hear their case in terms of what needs to be done by the Department of Justice?
Chairman, I appreciate them being here today. I also have somebody from my office who's spent her entire career working on cases like Mr. Epstein's. She's in charge of our task force investigating human trafficking. She's available to talk to them.
She can sit right next to you. She can sit right next to you when you meet with these survivors.
I have never said I will not meet with survivors.
Will you meet with these 10 survivors? I'm asking you on the record.
If they have lawyers, as you know, I'm prohibited from meeting directly with them.
That was Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, pressed yesterday by Democratic Senator Dick Durbin, the ranking member of the Judiciary Committee, who's going to be on later, about the meeting with the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's sexual abuse. Our next guests are part of a bipartisan group of lawmakers leading new legislation in the House that would allow state attorneys general, Epstein survivors, and members of Congress to sue the Justice Department.
Yeah, Congressman, Congressman Khanna, let me go to you first, because I want to talk about your visit to the West Bank. It's very interesting hearing people who attacked you. Reminded me of Nick Kristof, who did some reporting on Palestinian prisoners being abused in Israeli prisons, and my gosh, the abuse that Nick Kristof got for reporting those facts. He was called a Palestinian propagandist. He was accused of lying, accused of making up facts, and now the Wall Street Journal comes out and basically confirms everything. I wonder if Nick Kristof's going to be blamed for the Wall Street Journal's reporting as well. Same thing with you. You go to the West Bank and you are stopped, you're detained. You're there to report on the thuggishness of West Bank settlers attacking other.
A number of Israelis, Palestinians, around the van, kicking Christian majority.
They've marched through. They've been intimidated. It's nonstop, and this
That's
isn't
unfortunate.
1967. This isn't 19. Was a fighter to help Israel for years. Rahm Emanuel, who's been as pro-Israel as anybody, said, he goes, all this does is make Israel like Great Britain. This isn't like 1948. This isn't 1967. This isn't 1973. They are no longer being attacked on 5 sides by 5 different Arab countries. He said, we need to cut the welfare and treat them like Great Britain, treat them like France, treat them like our other allies. Talk about that, if you agree with Rahm, and then tell us what happened yesterday with the vote.
Sure. You know, Israel's the most prosperous nation in the Middle East, and their debt to GDP ratio is much better than ours, yet they're the biggest welfare recipient of the United States in foreign aid. And I don't specifically pick on Israel. I also offered amendments to defund the foreign aid to Jordan and the foreign aid to Egypt. And I've done that over the years, but I think this is particularly acute now because Israel, I believe, is committing genocide with the offensive weapons that we've been giving them. And what my amendment would have done is it would have defunded the offensive weapons, not the Iron Dome, but the weapons that they've used on Lebanon and Gaza and even inside of their own borders. And so, you know, I was the only Republican, although we're supposed to be fiscal hawks, I was the only Republican to say that, you know, yes, we need to not send American tax dollars overseas. Yet I got over half of the Democrat caucus, including Ro Khanna, who has helped lead some of these things with me, to vote for this amendment. And I think it's a sign of shifting perceptions, not just among Americans, but also among their elected leaders here in Washington, D.C.
Gentlemen, we're going to talk about the bill that you introduced yesterday, the Epstein Files Transparency Act 2.0, in just a second. But while I have you here, Congressman Massey, the president's going to be making a speech to the nation tonight in which he's going to outline alleged fraud in the 2020 election. We had Jay Clayton, who wants to be the new DNI, up in the Senate yesterday, incapable of saying that Joe Biden won the election in 2020. Has the president just convinced himself that he won the election, even though he knows that he didn't? There's no evidence there. And why does he keep going back to this?
You know, we're pushing the SAVE Act, Republicans are, which would require ID to vote and to be an American citizen. And I support that. But I don't think the problem, you know, is that our elections aren't secure because we control the House, we control the Senate, we control the White House, and in some degree we control the Supreme Court. So I asked my Republican colleagues, why are you complaining about election fraud? We won all the damn elections. The fraud that's going on is we're not holding ourselves to the promises that we made of fiscal responsibility, putting America first, making America healthy. The problem is we're wasting the opportunity that we were given in these elections, that we won, all of them.
Congressman Khanna, let's...
Interesting take. All right, let's go to this next one. Kennedy, did Jeffrey Epstein hang himself or did somebody kill him? Patel, I think he hung himself in the cell. Oh my goodness.
Did Jeffrey Epstein hang himself or did somebody kill him?
Senator, I believe he hung himself in a cell in the Metropolitan Detention Center.
Are you going to release all the information about that?
Senator, we are working through that right now with the Department of Justice.
When do you think you'll have it done, Cash?
I think in the near future, sir.
Like before I die?
Senator, we've been working on that, and we're doing it in a way that protects victims and also doesn't put out into the ether information that is irrelevant for production of the public, such as CSAM.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Reid.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, that's interesting. Hopefully we'll get more information on that particular issue. And then here's Massey again talking on the House floor. It says, though my amendment to strike $3.3 billion in aid to Israel from the State Department, a props bill, did not pass. 104 House members voted in favor of it. The tide is changing. Americans want their tax dollars to be spent improving things here at home, not waging war and genocide.
It is now in order to consider Amendment Number 8, printed in Part A of House Report 119-749. For what purpose does the gentleman from Kentucky seek recognition?
Madam Chair, I have an amendment at the desk.
The clerk will designate the amendment.
Amendment Number 8, printed in Part A of House Report Number 119.
The country of Israel from the State Department funding bill. You know, we've got $39.4 trillion of debt. We've got needs at home, which include our infrastructure, our roads and bridges. We've got a shortfall in that fund. We've got our locks and dams that we're perpetually trying to figure out new funding mechanisms to come up with. And we've got homeless veterans. And we're sending more money to Israel in this bill than we spend on homeless veterans in this country. Just to put it in perspective, there are 3,000 counties in this country. And if you divide that into $3 billion, that's $1 million from every county. This is not a significant amount of money that is going overseas. So I think we should stop it. We should put them on a diet. They're the biggest welfare recipient of the United States and have been for many years. $310 billion has been received by Israel from the taxpayers of the United States. That's in inflation-adjusted dollars since we've been giving them money. And that's why I think this amendment is important, and I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman.
So interesting concept. Then here we have Epstein survivor Liz Stein on Blanche meeting goes demoralizing. I think we would have been happy that he just offered us something, but he completely talked about our own questions. He didn't give transparent answers. He didn't give us any promises. He had no real answers for the, however you say her name, I forget how to say it. It's not Ghislaine. That's definitely not it. Maxwell transfer, no real explanation for improper redactions or victims of a crime. All right, let's watch what she has to say.
I don't want to color it that way because you were there. So you share with us whether this meeting had anything to do with you.
Look, it had absolutely nothing to do with us, and it had everything to do with Blanche checking a box so that he can get a promotion. I don't think that we had high expectations going into this meeting. I certainly did not, but I didn't expect to walk out of the meeting feeling the way that we feel right now. It was demoralizing, to say the very least. And I think that Todd Blanche had an opportunity today to throw us some kind of bone, to agree to something, to just, if he offered almost anything, I think that we would have been happy that he just offered us something, but he completely talked around questions. He didn't give transparent answers. He didn't give us any promises as far as following up on investigative leads. He had no real answers for the Ghislaine Maxwell transfer and no real explanation for the improper redactions. What he did say was that he would be open to meeting us again. However, he would be open after we go to the FBI. Survivors have been going to the FBI for 30 years. Right. For 30 years, we've been going to the FBI. And why should we have any confidence in the FBI or the DOJ right now? Again, it felt like more political posturing and using survivors the way that we've been used as political pawns. We're victims of crime. At the end of the day, we're victims of the crime of sex trafficking. And the fact that our Department of Justice will not take that seriously is beyond concerning, not just to us, but should be concerning to Americans all across this country.
It is concerning. It is concerning. And then let's watch this little short video to end our video of JD Vance talking on Joe Rogan's podcast about the Epstein release.
But if people want to say we mishandled the Epstein release, guilty. We did mishandle, especially the communications of it.
What do you think should have been done?
I think that we should have just dropped everything at the very beginning. And like, obviously it takes a little time to review the stuff, to find the stuff, to redact things where you have victims and so forth. But we should have just done it as quickly as possible.
But some of the stuff that was redacted, some of the names that were redacted weren't victims.
So yeah, I've looked into this, and my understanding of this, having looked at a lot of this but not all of it, is that it is sometimes hard to draw a distinction between victim and co-conspirator. And let me highlight this in a very sort of obvious way. Ro Khanna, who's been one of the loudest voices on the Epstein file. Well, he became very loud on the Epstein files the minute Donald Trump became president, didn't seem to care about it during the Biden administration. He actually brought one of the Epstein victims, I think, to the State of the Union last year, or maybe it was the year before last. Well, that victim, and I'm not saying she wasn't a victim. I don't know anything about her particular case. She was also listed as a co-conspirator in some of these documents. Right, so there's an idea that some of the people who were engaged in the sex trafficking were also, facilitating it as well.
So they were incentivized to get more girls.
Yeah, but yes, that's right. But the idea is that it's hard to sort of, it's sometimes a little bit of a gray area between, some of the people who were alleged victims were also alleged co-conspirators, and so what DOJ tried to do was kind of make that judgment as best they could and release as much as possible.
Well, that's interesting. Those are some interesting takes. Leave your comments below about all the allegations and what have you that you want to respond to. All right, thanks for watching. It's a difficult topic, but hopefully we'll see you again.